either come back to you for action or back to the planning commission, depending on the changes. She said you probably forgot what she told him by the time you got to the end.
Thank you.
You know, we got to put the lights out.
Welcome everybody to our 12 January council meeting. We'll start out. Councilman Green will have our invocation, and then the Boy Scout troop will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day, especially the blessings of this wonderful city, state, and country. Please be with those who have lost loved ones recently, who are facing serious illnesses, or who are grieved for any reason. Comfort them as only you can. We ask that you be with our troops in foreign lands and with their families, and bring them home safely. Please bless the local fire officials and policemen who protect us every day with their lives. We humbly ask that you'll place upon us some of your wisdom so that the decisions we make will be the benefit of all the people. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Why don't you introduce the troop and then do the pledge?
We're the Scouts from Troop 28. They're participating in the Mayor Badge Citizenship of the community, and they have to attend the council meeting, and we'll likely leave for the meeting.
We're glad to have you with us. Face the flag.
Attention, Scout salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank y'all for doing that, and we're always happy to have you here with us. Okay, our first order of business is election of vice mayor and appointment of the city manager, city clerk, city attorney, and deputy city clerk, and we'll do each of those separately.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution electing a vice mayor with the name of Carrie L. Freeman inserted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Wiggins.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 5-0.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Now let's go. Thank y'all. Let's go to the city manager.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution appointing the city manager with the name J. Randall Wheeler inserted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on that. Ms. Wiggins.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, and for the city clerk?
Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution appointing the city clerk with the name of Judy F. Wiggins inserted.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Wiggins?
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
And Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
And city attorney?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution appointing the city attorney with the name D. Wayne Moore inserted.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Vernal.
Aye.
And Councilman Green.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
And I thank you. And deputy city clerk?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution appointing the deputy city clerk with the name Victoria H. Vicky Diggs inserted.
Second.
Okay, we'll have a motion and a second. Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Bernal?
Aye.
Councilman Ayer?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, so congratulations to all of y'all. The next item is our audience for visitors. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to address us on any subject, we'll do that this time. Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on to agenda item E, approval of the minutes. And we have the special regular minutes of 8 December. Have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of the special regular meeting of December 8th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Bernal?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Ayer?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
And our work session on on December the 10th.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of the work session of December 10th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Wiggins?
Councilman Ayer?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Bernal?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, our next item is unfinished business, and there are two items. The first one is discussion of ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by revision to Article 11, Village Commercial District pertaining to standalone residential development. And this is, we had reviewed this and sent it back to the staff for some more information. So, Mr. Manager.
Vice Mayor, members of council, as you will recall, at your previous meeting in the month of December, there was a very good and thorough discussion of proposed changes to the Village Commercial District to allow the buildings which had originally and currently set up as commercial with residential above to actually be physically separated. I like to refer to it as Legos. Instead of 2 Legos or 3, you can split the Legos and go this way. There was discussion regarding were there sufficient inducements or protections to make it so that we would not have a pervasive problem of getting one or the other component, but not both. Council asked us to consider their conversation. We've put together a couple of different ways to think about it. What we'd like to do, I'll ask Kevin to come forward, is present these ideas that we had. If either one of them or some variation is something that you would be desirous as a council of us amending our ordinance to include, we'll redraft the ordinance. We'll work with our city attorney to see whether or not we have sufficiently changed the ordinance to the point that it needs to be remanded back to the Planning Commission. If that's his legal advice, that's what we'll do, and then it will come back to you in succession. Or if the changes, assuming you make any, are not sufficient enough to trigger that, then we would put it on your future agenda for consideration. Kevin?
No, and thank you, Mr. Wheeler, Vice Mayor, and honorable members of council. Like Randy said, the actual ordinance amendment that was considered at your last meeting does kind of result in a fundamental change in the Village Commercial District. You're no longer stacking the uses in one building. You're spreading them out over an entire development potentially. So with that being said, we wanted to make sure, per your discussion last meeting, we were directed to look into ways to ensure that developers were not just delivering a portion of that, the residential portion, and then leaving the commercial component out of it, which the ordinance would require, at least in ratio form. By right, that would still be a 50-50 ratio split. With a conditional use permit, they could give us 33% commercial, 66% residential. So please keep in mind when reviewing these options or considering them in this case that all development fees, to include utility, stormwater, erosion, sediment control, ingress, egress, reviews, inspection fees are due at site plan approval. So they would have a significant investment into the development at that point. That doesn't include the money that they've paid to have their engineering work done, which is quite considerable as well. But with option 1, it is pretty much right out of our ordinance now in what we allow in the planned unit development mixed use overlay district, which does overlay the village commercial district. At 75% occupancy of the residential portion, infrastructure would be required to be stubbed out to the commercial portions of the development. And that would be controlled by the issuance of certificates of occupancy. So that is a control measure that we have at the city level through the building permit process. We can regulate at 75% build out, or occupancy rather, we can hold up those certificates of occupancy until they deliver the required commercial. At least in this case, stub it out. They wouldn't be required to deliver it at that time. We could take this one step further and control it through bonding. They could bond these improvements instead of delivering them to us in construction form. And taking that one step further, they could bond the entire commercial development to the city. That would put the city in an odd position of being a developer, potentially, but that is an option. They would actually be required to bond the construction of those buildings. Option 2,
Good.
yes.
Vice Mayor, well, that is an option, and we wanted to lay it out there. That last variant is not something that the staff is desirous of doing.
Yes.
We don't need to build people's buildings for them. That's way too much Big Brother government than we would ever imagine. But just because we thought that didn't mean we shouldn't put the option out there.
Yes. That is taking that option to an extreme.
Can I ask a question before we get to the next option?
Yes, sir.
Although we're allowing for the separation of residential versus commercial, it doesn't prohibit stacking residential over commercial as well as having separate residential, does it?
No, that would still be controlled by the ratio. They can put it together how they'd like.
So kind of like Port Warren, they do have some commercial that has residential over it, but they do have separate residential. We could have something like that.
Exactly, yes, sir. So delving into option 2, this really would not result in any fundamental change of the district at all. Right now, as it's structured, they are required to deliver their commercial and their residential at the same time because they're part of the same building. Staff would regulate this with the issuance of COs, just like we do now, certificates of occupancies, and they would be required to either construct the commercial component first or construct it simultaneously with the residential portion. And that's for by right uses. So that would be the 50-50 ratio. For uses that would require your approval during the conditional use permit phase, that could be regulated on a case-by-case basis because you all are issuing the use permit. You would have an opportunity to consider what is best for that particular development. Neither of these options are perfect. However, after researching it over the past few weeks, staff believes that these are our 2 best options moving forward to ensure that a developer delivers the required commercial space. So with that being said, I can answer any questions you may have about those.
Questions from anyone?
Can you tell me if you can foresee any impediments to using option 2?
Any impediment to the option 2 now?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's no surprise to anyone. As it stands now, the Village Commercial District, nothing has happened there. And whether that's a flaw with our ordinance, we may never know. However, most developers that we have talked to require some sort of rooftops before they can deliver any retail or commercial space.
Some sort of what? I didn't hear.
Some rooftops, residential space, to support any delivered commercial space. So that could be potentially one.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
If there, as I was reading this and looking at the, why would a developer want to build the buildings where people will live before they build the stores? If anybody thinks that any development we can put in this city, that if that development itself is going to support a business in this residential commercial area, that's a failed business. If they think that all their business is going to come from those few houses. Any business that comes into one of these is going to have business from the entire city. And that's what will make that business successful or not. And if the plan is anything other than that, I don't think it's a workable business. So for any developer to come to us and say, we need houses first before we can have a business, that just doesn't make sense in this city. And the other thing is, you said we haven't had, is it a flaw in our ordinance or is it something else? We've just recently started, it's not that long that we've been working with all the owners of the Big Woods to try to get them together. So this is kind of a newish thing anyway. I don't know that it hasn't been, I think it has been moving forward recently.
The village commercial concept itself was developed in 1996, and the only development we have is the Sevilla's building at the corner now. That's technically zoned village commercial. We have another project that is about to get site plan approval off of Alfred Street.
That started since we started really pushing.
Yeah, that started shortly after the residential was reintroduced in, I believe,
Right.
2011.
Right.
There is progress going forward, but we're still not, the doors aren't being knocked down at City Hall to construct in the Village Commercial District. I guess with the separation of uses, we were looking to implement a way to catalyze development in the Village Commercial District.
And I just see a builder coming in, putting in residents, and then walking. I see
Absolutely.
that. And I think it is our task as council to design whatever ordinance we can to prevent that from happening.
Absolutely.
Other questions, comments?
Now, Kevin, the way you presented it to us at the last meeting, the developer could do 50% of the residential unit, correct?
Which is 50% of the whole thing.
Yeah, which would be 50% of the whole thing.
Right.
That would be the separation of uses by right.
But he had to put in the infrastructure for the whole project to include the commercial part of it, correct?
Yes.
What do you mean by infrastructure? Maybe I'm confused on that. Does that just mean pipes, or does that mean a building?
The water, the sewer,
Road?
the electrical connections,
But no building.
but no buildings.
No
And the whole
foundation.
idea, we've had no interest in the village commercial since,
And I think
whenever
we
it was
still aren't going to
presented.
have interest. We're going to have interest in the village part, not the commercial. And I want to make sure that I think it would be worse to have the stuff all stubbed out, whatever we're calling it, and then not build it from there. That
I
would
see it
just
a
be
different
awful.
way, and you're giving him the incentive to build the residential units so that he can have some income. I mean, if he's got to build simultaneously, he's got no income until he finishes everything. And you're asking for one heck of a big developer to be able to do that. I'm saying this is a win for the city. Even if he walked away after he built all of the residential stuff, at least we've got some affordable housing, and somebody's going to walk in and do the commercial stuff, because now all the infrastructure's in there. It's going to cost them a lot less money. So if we want to encourage this development, I think we've got to let them build what they would build first. The residential part, start getting some income. Nobody's saying that I don't think any developer thinks that the residential part's going to pay for all of his investment. He's got to do the commercial part and rent that out in order to pay for it. But at least he'll have some income coming in if he's got the residential units that he can lease.
And
or
is that
sell,
not
or
what we
whatever.
have right now? Isn't that what we have?
As far as having to stub out, no. As presented last time, there were no restrictions. There would be no assurances that they would deliver on the commercial.
And what do we have on the books this minute?
Right now, what we have on the books for the planned unit development mixed-use overlay is option 1 as presented tonight, which would require the stub out at 75% occupancy of the residential units.
Kevin, what do we have in the village commercial?
In the village commercial now, because they're part of the same structure, they're required to be built simultaneously.
Okay.
So we want to, do we have more questions of Kevin?
Well, just on option 2, real quick, if a certificate of occupancy can't be given to one or the other, it has to be given to both, which means significant work has to be done on the commercial side before they get a certificate of occupancy anyway, right?
Well, if they're separated uses, they could build out, say they're building townhomes. A certificate of occupancy could be granted for however many townhomes in the development, up to 75% of what they have on their approved site plan prior to any construction of the commercial phases.
But would it still require that they, at a minimum, provide the infrastructure for the commercial, stub out the sewer, the water, the electrical?
No, that option right now would not require that. However, that is something we could consider when we develop actual language for this.
I think to lack the actual construction of the stub out for the commercial sets the course for it never to ever develop. Okay? And to add on or to build on Buddy's comment, if the infrastructure is there for the commercial, then it becomes a lot cheaper to go ahead and to develop the commercial. Okay? If they never really do that, then the cost goes up to build the commercial, and the incentive for doing that, providing the commercial piece, goes away.
Okay, any more direct questions for Kevin? Okay, all right. We appreciate it. Now, I guess we need to decide what we want to tell staff that we want to do with this. There seems to be some diversity of opinion, I guess you could say.
Well, I prefer what they proposed to us at our last meeting.
Which had no incentive.
It gets the infrastructure done. It allows the developer to build up to 50% of the development of residential area.
Well, but they delivered before, though. They didn't require the actual construction of the infrastructure.
The one they delivered to us previously did require the infrastructure, correct?
Mm-mm.
Yes. Yes, it did.
Not in ordinance form now. Now, what we discussed after the fact of ways to ensure it.
In other words, what you presented to us last meeting, didn't it require that the infrastructure be in place in order to get occupancy permits for the dwellings?
No, there were no assurances for the delivery.
Yeah, that was my concern.
That's the way it should.
That's why I'm looking at option 2.
It was discussed. It was not a part of the actual language that we used.
But it's in here now.
That's my question.
It is.
In option 2, that's
my question on
covered,
option
right?
2.
The first sentence says that option 2 is no fundamental change to what we have right now. Correct?
Yes, option 2 would result in no fundamental change because they would have to deliver it at the same time. So the infrastructure would be delivered before any COs were issued on the residential side.
I think if we put some language into what you presented at the last meeting, that the infrastructure for the commercial phase of it has to be completed prior to receiving any certificate of occupancy for any dwelling. I think.
Can I just read this? It says, as no certificate of occupancy would be issued for a residential dwelling unless a certificate of occupancy is prepared to be released for supporting commercial space.
Yes, that's
what
an
we're
option
looking
2.
No, that means you got to do it simultaneously. That means you got to build both components simultaneously. The way they presented it the first time, you could build up to 50% of the build out But they didn't include the fact that he would have to do the infrastructure, the streets, the sewer, the water, the electric, for the commercial part.
You wouldn't have to have a
If they have
CO for
to,
both.
if we add that component to what they brought to us last time, I think we've got what everybody's looking for.
If they add in the part of them actually having to provide the infrastructure for the commercial.
Exactly.
Yes. But that wasn't there last time, and that would not require that they have to build commercial and residential at the same time. It would allow them the opportunity to build some residential, make some money, and then build some commercial. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. But it does provide that they have to at least provide the infrastructure for the commercial to give them incentive to go ahead and finish the commercial.
Right.
So, you know what we want?
Can I ask Wayne a question now?
I'm probably not smart enough to answer, but I'll try.
So, this is my question. Are we, if we agree to what Bud is saying we would like to have, is that or is that not changing it enough that you would recommend to send it back to the Planning Commission?
I don't think so, because I think what you're saying is that all you've done is make what I consider to be a minor modification of timing that doesn't change the overall concept that you are allowing the commercial and the residential to be separated, which is the focus of the ordinance. Now all you're saying is we are going to add a timing aspect to that. The timing aspect is going to be whatever you say it is. They will have to provide the infrastructure before any occupancy permits are issued, or at 50% occupancy permits or whatever. You are going to then time when the infrastructure goes in for the commercial part. To me, that's not changing the concept that you have, which has been discussed and approved by the public hearings and the Planning Commission. That's just my opinion.
Well, to expand my thoughts just a little bit further, I think when you do the infrastructure, when you provide sewer, water, gutter, electrical, okay, when you do that for the residential, it makes common sense to do those things for all of them together.
Exactly. Same thing with the roads.
Yeah. Same thing for the roads. You wouldn't just build the roads for one. You do the roads for all of them. You wouldn't run a separate sewer line for residential, then come back and do it for commercial. Okay. And so to require that they provide the infrastructure, and at the same time, okay, say no COs will be issued until the infrastructure is in for the whole thing.
I think providing the infrastructure assures that the commercial would be built, because that's going to be a major investment to provide that much infrastructure in addition to the residential infrastructure.
And it reduces the cost for potential commercial businesses after that point.
And the question I have is, though, from the timing point of view, are you saying that before any building permits, before any occupancy permits can be issued, you have to put in the commercial infrastructure? Or are you saying that it's at some point in time, like 50% of them are occupied or whatever? That's the only thing I have, is what is the triggering mechanism to require the developer to then put his infrastructure in? Because just my observation is, if you require him to put it in the beginning, you've loaded the huge amount of cost on the front end of the development.
But we've also, it's less than what we have now, which is he has to build the commercial out, half the commercial, right? So isn't just the infrastructure a discount from where it is now?
If we said it was 66%, okay, at that point you had to provide the infrastructure for the commercial, okay? I don't see any different than that in saying at 0%. You have to provide the infrastructure, because if you run the electrical through the development, okay, it does not cost the contractor any more to run the electrical through the whole development than it does to run it just to part of it and then another part. As a matter of fact, it's more expensive to do it the other way. If you ran sewer line to residential and then you came back and ran sewer line for commercial, that would cost him more money than it would be just to provide the sewer line for the whole development. You dig in one ditch, you're putting in one pipe, versus digging two ditches and putting in two pipes. Do you see it that way, buddy?
Yeah, because
the only difference is saying 0% instead of 66%, and they've got a percentage in here. We just saved 0%, and it makes it cheaper.
In most cases, one site developer is going to do the road, sewer, the water, storm drain, and it's going to be a lot cheaper for the developer to do it all at one time than to do half of it, and then go, maybe that contractor won't even want to do the other piece.
Yeah. That's what I said, I mean, I don't see it as loading it and making it harder. I think it makes it easier for anything.
I don't get the vote, I'm just asking the timing question, so to make sure that the timing is where it was.
Well, I don't-
You
I
got
don't
it
think-
timed where you want it.
I don't think that changes the timing, it just changes what he's gonna provide. Well, it does, it's what he will provide when. He puts in the roads for the whole thing at one time, okay, that's,
So can we get a consolidating statement to the staff as to what we want from either end of the table here?
Well, I would say that the same ordinance that you proposed last time,
right.
except add the stipulation that the infrastructure for both pieces, commercial and residential, have to be complete before we'll issue certificate of occupancy for any dwelling.
So,
And I mean, you could tweak it to, I mean, you certainly wouldn't want him to put the finished surface on if the commercial is totally separate from residential. You know, word it so that he could put the base asphalt on and stop there. And then come back later when he does the whole thing, you know, pave the whole thing at one time.
Yeah.
Gives you a much better job. And
That way you wouldn't destroy the road doing the rest of the commercial construction.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
sound okay to you?
I don't feel good about the whole thing altogether. I think we have an ordinance that works.
Generally, we're okay? Consensus-wise? Okay, well, we'll note your objection and ask you to speak directly with the staff at a later date. Okay, you good on that?
Yes, sir. We will redraft the ordinance and bring it back for consideration on first read at the first available meeting.
Okay. So we will move along to number 2, DSD landscaping conditional use permit. And
Kevin's up again.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Vice Mayor, and honorable members of council. I just have a brief slideshow here to show the progress over the last couple months at 93 Firth Lane. As of a site inspection conducted this past Friday, he is in full compliance with the conditions of his use permit. You can see here, this was probably taken sometime right before Thanksgiving. You can see that the dumpsters were not enclosed and the storage yard was sprawling and not fully enclosed. This is going back to right before your last meeting, when the dumpsters were somewhat enclosed and the storage yard area was about 2/3 of the way enclosed. And this is of this past Friday. This picture's not as good as this picture, but you can see a gate has been installed that will fully enclose the storage yard area from any adjacent sites. And this includes, at least on a temporary basis, that the dumpster is stored within this area as well. So it's fully enclosed and meets that condition set forth in the use permit. So that is the end of that presentation, but I can answer any questions you may have. Of course, Mr. Dunlap is here as well to address any of your concerns.
okay, comments from council?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. Dunlap is in full compliance, and there is no action required on your part. If I could, though, thank you, Mr. Dunlap, for all you did over the last several weeks to make the site look like that. Appreciate that, sir.
Okay. That gets us down to new business. And the first item is an employment agreement with the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution approving an employment agreement with the city manager, and I believe we've got to add some language to it. Is that correct?
Yes.
the modifications are in red.
Yeah. We need to read these? Or?
I really shouldn't give you advice on my own agreement. I prefer Mr. Moore and
I
Ms. Morrell.
particularly like the changes that we're making the agreement later than 2015. So that was,
Well, the changes are very minor. Mr. Moore, do you want to comment on those, or you want me to go ahead and do it?
You have a date change on the first page. You have on the second page the same thing in paragraph B under the term. On section 4, you have the salary adjustment. As I understand the calculation, the manager has received the same level of increase that the city employees have received.
Right.
Under section 5, it's changed it from 3 weeks to 18 days. And under section 9, under general expenses, add and the vehicle allowance.
Which he's already received.
Okay, the vehicle allowance was already part of it, but now we're putting it into the
added the language
contract.
into the contract. That's correct.
So it didn't change anything except make it contractual.
And on the second page, you'll see was added. The sentence was added in, providing the monthly vehicle allowance of $500.
Right.
And at the bottom of that page, you'll see again date change, and I believe that's all of the.
Okay. We have a motion. Did we get a second?
I'm sorry, there was a bonus provision.
Yeah, bonus of $1,500.
Okay.
I move that
And that was performance-based.
Yeah. I move that we adopt the resolution approving an employment agreement with the city manager with these changes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilman Bernal,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Ayer, Councilwoman Crawford,
aye.
and Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Now, number 2 under new business is resolution adopting the updated multi-hazard mitigation plan for the city of Poquoson.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, if I could, and also before I start, let me just thank you for your action with regard to my employment agreement. I sincerely appreciate it, and as does my family.
Well, we appreciate what you do for the city.
Thank you very much. As council members are aware, periodically, the city is required to update its hazardous mitigation plan. Copy is available with the agenda electronically if anyone would like to see it, if you haven't had an opportunity. And it's an extensive process required by some of the other choices that we've made to participate in programs through the federal government. Lee Chapman is here, and she is our very capable consultant lead. Mike Bryant is our staff lead, and those two folks and almost 24 others worked we started early summer, even earlier than that. So this is a long process, and it is part of our strategic planning in dealing with the many kinds of hazards that we may face because we're coastal. A lot of them are coastal storm related, but it covers much more than that. And it's a very good roadmap. It dovetails into our emergency operations plan. It supports our CRS program, and is a very good document. And they're here. If you'd like to hear from them, they are prepared to answer your questions, but it's hard to summarize a 200-page document, so they would prefer to answer your questions rather than try to summarize it for you, I think. But it is an excellent document. I commend it to you, and I commend them for putting it together.
Well, we've had it since early December, and I'm sure we've all read it. Does anyone have any questions for our consultant and Assistant Disaster Preparedness Officer?
Just to comment them on a thorough job. They did an excellent job on that. I did go all the way through the entire document, and there's a lot of information there, and it's intertwined with other cities and localities and agencies, and really appreciate your efforts. You did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion to adopt.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution adopting the updated multi-hazard mitigation plan for the city of Poquoson.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay. And that gets us down to comments of the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I have only 3 items this evening. The first is to let the public know that the city is playing host site location for a Red Cross blood drive this Thursday from noon to 6. Here, you can just drop in. Better yet, call ahead. There are many organizations throughout the city that regularly do this, and every single one of them is important. So we would love to. You don't need to be a city employee or a school division employee to participate with us in blood drive. So we invite you to be part of that. I'd like to apologize. We did have a bit of a problem with our website this morning. The agenda that was posted for tonight's meeting did not resemble the one that was in our books and that we all had, and that we had disseminated out to many people. And as soon as we saw that, we immediately corrected it, and I apologize. We just figured it out about 9:30, and about 9:35 we had fixed it. So in explaining that to my wife, she said, well, whose job is that? And I said, I don't know, but from now on, I'm going to check. Anyway, I apologize to anyone that may have looked at the agenda over the weekend and saw a change. It was unintentional, and I apologize for that. And lastly, once again, I thank you for your action on my employment agreement. There is no better local government place to work probably in the world, but certainly in Virginia than here. And it's a combination of having excellent leadership, an excellent attorney, an excellent senior staff, excellent staff, school division, and community. When you start checking all the boxes, I think all of us are very fortunate. And I thank you for that. And enough said. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. I will say that I think all of us have probably experienced a electronic file that corrupts somewhere in our last 5 or 6 years, and occasionally that just happens. So, Councilman Bernal, we'll start with you, please.
Okay, well, a little belated Happy New Year to everyone, but since this is our first meeting, and just to say I look forward to continuing to work with our newly reconstituted management and advisory committees and all of the great assistance we get from our staff. So looking forward to another great year.
Councilman Green?
I'll echo that. That's it, sir.
I'll echo that as well, but I'd also like to say that the Poquoson Business Alliance member notified the city of a video on YouTube that was done by real estate broker John Wilson that touts how well Poquoson did in growing our home sales last year, 13 over 14, over 10%, 9% in increased values over homes, and the day supply has dropped tremendously. So that's an outstanding job. It tells you about the marketing being done by the city, not only to pull business in, but to pull residents in, so it's a great job.
Councilman Southall.
Yeah, well, I like to second Mr. Bernal's comments and wish everybody belated Happy New Year. And we got a package in our, we got information in our package this week talking about the various boards and commissions that have to have new members appointed to them this year. And I encourage all the citizens of Poquoson to think about supporting those boards and put in applications to work with them. We have numerous applicants for it. The more applicants, the better. We want to pick the best people we can for whatever board or commission. And so I encourage you all to apply.
I echo that sentiment, and as well as everything else that's been said. I'd like to wish our missing mayor well. He and I thank him for not contaminating any of us. Thanks for staying home tonight, Gene.
Well said.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think I can add to that. The only thing I would like to say is additionally in our package was the annual library report. And just every year, it just amazes me what they do with what they have. And we're number one in the state. We double the regional average and the state average on circulation of items, those kinds of things, double. And that's just kind of fantastic, I think. So I was just impressed with that entire report.
It was a big report.
It was.
It was impressive, yes.
So
You're that good. It's difficult to better yourself each year, but they do.
they do. Yes, they do. Well, other than I just appreciate all of y'all electing me to the vice mayor slot. I thank you. And any second thoughts? Anybody?
Move to adjourn?
I knew the seconded. I can't. Okay, have a motion and a second.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Ayo.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Bernal.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, so we're adjourned.
We have a spare hard copy of the